Rachel, the owner and creator here at the Eclectic Cottage in Spokane, Washington. Today is Saturday, and for today's video, I have 3 more thrift flips. Relatively simple flips this go around, again using very neutral colors and kind of focusing 2 of the projects on some Roycycled Treasures decoupage papers. I can't wait to show them to you, and without further ado, let's get to today's projects. My first project is a pretty simple makeover of this little ceramic angel that I've had for a while. It has some little chips in it, just needed a refresh, I think. And so I am just painting it with 2 coats of DIY's Crinoline. I want it to look much the same as it already did. I just wanted to kind of hide some of the imperfections. So I'm going over it again, just kind of stippling the paint on with 2 coats of Crinoline. Once both coats of paint were completely dry, it was time to seal my paint. As I've mentioned before, DIY paint is clay-based and it's porous and can be reactivated with water, so you need to seal it. And for this, I chose DIY's clear wax. So I'm just using this small, kind of pointy brush, and I'm dipping it into my wax and then just brushing that down into all of the grooves on this little angel. Once I had a good coat of wax on it, I grabbed a dry shop towel and just very lightly wiped off any excess wax. You just need to be careful here not to rub too hard so as to accidentally remove some of the paint as well. Once that was done, I grabbed out my Decor wax in the color Eternal, which is this beautiful burnished gold, and I just used my fingertip to apply a little bit of wax to some of the higher spots on this little angel. I didn't want it to have as much gold on it as it did previously, but I did want some. In places, I needed a little detail brush to brush on the wax, and once I was done with that, this little angel was finished. For my second project, I pulled this little crate out of my stash, and I am painting all but one side of this with DIY's little black dress. Now I wanted to use the little black dress more like a stain instead of a paint on the outside portion of the box. And so I'm using my mister bottle to really wet and thin my paint out. And then when I have a good coat on, I'm going to grab a dry shop towel and just rub some of that paint back off so that you can see hints of the wood grain kind of shining through the black paint. I did the same procedure to all 3 of the sides that I was painting with the black paint, and then I moved on to painting the inside. Again, I used quite a bit of water. I find that it really helps with raw wood for the paint to really soak in, to wet it down really well first. And you can see here, as highly pigmented as the DIY paint is, it is still only taking me 1 good coat of paint to cover up that raw wood, even with the paint being as thin as it is. Now for the next step on this box, I accidentally hit photo instead of record, but I did paint the front portion of it with a good coat of DIY's Cottage color called White Linen. Now it's always good practice to use a light, bright color under your decoupage papers so that your images really stand out. And I like using the white linen because it has a built-in sealer, so when I'm going over it with my decoupage medium, I don't have to worry about reactivating my paint. So after misting the portion of paper I wanted to use, I went ahead and laid a little strip at the end of the box of DIY's liquid patina down, and then adhered just a corner section so that I could cut away the remaining excess paper. Once I was just down to the strip of paper I needed for the front of the box, I began in sections adding a little bit more liquid patina and then smoothing my paper down over it and then adding a second coat of liquid patina on top of the paper. I just did this a little by little down the front of the box until all of my paper was adhered. Now I did have a few wrinkles, so I grabbed a ball of saran wrap. I've seen other people do this. It helps because it's not sticky like your fingers can be, which can tear the paper. So you can use a ball of saran wrap to help just kind of smooth your paper out and get rid of some of those wrinkles. Once I was finished with that, I set my box aside to dry completely before I moved on to the next step, which is sanding off the excess paper. It's critical that you let your decoupage paper dry completely because if you try to do this while the paper's wet at all, it will tear and then you'll cry and have to start all over again. Believe me, I've had that happen and it stinks. Anyway, I'm just using a piece of 150 grit sandpaper in a downward sweeping motion to get rid of that little bit of excess paper. The last step for this little crate is to seal my little black dress paint. And since I'd already used the liquid patina on the front, I decided to go ahead and seal the entire piece with the liquid patina. Now, I know you normally just see me use liquid patina to put down decoupage paper, but it is a good sealer. It dries a little bit more matte than Big Top. I don't know that it's quite as durable as Big Top, but it is definitely a good sealer for your painted pieces. Once that was done and dry, this little crate is done, and I absolutely love how it came out. I hope you guys do too. My third and final project is this little trinket box, and I decided I wanted to put decoupage paper on the front of the drawer, so I removed the little handles from it and then took out all the drawers and began painting. Now for this one, I'm going to use a little bit different neutral. I am using layered chocolate for this. It's a beautiful, beautiful chocolatey brown by DIY. Gorgeous color, and it will match perfectly to the decoupage paper I'm going to be using on the front of the drawers. So I'm again using my mister bottle to thin this paint down a little bit so that it really soaks into that raw wood. And with the exception of the fronts of each of the drawers, I put one good even coat over the entire piece. And again, I'm using DIY's Cottage color white linen on the fronts of the drawers where the decoupage paper will be going. This also only took one coat of the paint. There was still a little bit of shadowing, but I wasn't too worried about it since the background of the paper I'm going to be using has a little bit of brown in it anyway. I think one of the hardest parts of this project was actually choosing which portion of this gorgeous paper to use on the front of my little drawers. This one's called Pressed Flowers Masterboard. It's by Roycycled Treasures decoupage paper, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So once I chose my section of paper, I cut it out, gave it a little mist, and then I laid down some liquid patina on the front of all three of my drawers. Now, since I wanted to keep those spaces between the little drawers, I went ahead and laid my decoupage paper over the three of them together. This helped make it so that they didn't wiggle around too much and the paper kind of held them together. So I laid my paper down, and just as normal, I went over it with another coat of liquid patina, just smoothing out any wrinkles as I went. Then I simply set my drawers aside until they were completely dry. Then it was time to separate them, so I just grabbed my little box knife and cut the paper between each drawer, and then again just used some 150 grit sandpaper, and in that downward sweeping motion removed all of the excess decoupage paper from the three drawers. Now, sometimes I forget to mention, but it's always good practice once you're done sanding off your excess paper to just kind of go along the edges of your piece and make sure all of the edges are completely adhered. Sometimes I find little pieces lift, so I just add a touch more liquid patina to those sections and lay them back down. Now, I did try to dry fit my drawers into my piece and realized that all the paint had made them quite sticky. So I grabbed my sandpaper and I sanded the sides and back of all three of my drawers just to get them shaved down a little bit in order to try and make them easier to go in and out. So again, I am just using liquid patina to seal this piece. I just put one good even coat over the entire thing, inside and outside of the box itself, and the inside and outside of the drawers as well. Then it was time to do something with the little knobs for the front, and I decided to go with gold. So again, I just grabbed that Decor wax in Eternal by Redesign with Prima, and using a little bitty artist brush, I painted that wax onto the little wooden knobs. Then I decided I wanted to bring a little bit of gold onto the body of my little box. So I went around the edges of each of the drawers with just a hint. And then I also went along the top edge with a little bit of gold, as well as the bottom. Once I finished that, I glued my little knobs back onto my piece, and then this little trinket box is finished. I'm loving the end result of this little trinket box. I hope you guys like it as much as I do. Well, I think that's it from here for today, you guys. I hope you liked my kind of simple neutral makeovers for today's video. I know my stash is kind of dwindling down some, and my husband and I are actually planning on going on a junk run tomorrow, mainly just to get out of here for a while and just see if I can go find some maybe holiday things, since Christmas is kind of around the corner at this point. So hopefully I will have a thrift haul for you guys on Wednesday. Fingers crossed. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up. I so appreciate that. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel and then just hit the little notification bell so you don't miss anything. And then don't forget to drop a comment below and let me know what you thought of today's projects. Just a quick reminder too, the paint and products you see me use can be purchased through me at my website, and that's www.theeclecticcottagespokane.com. I carry the full line of DIY paint and products, as well as Sweet Pickins milk paint and products, Roycycled Treasures decoupage papers, and Redesign with Prima. So go check those out there. Again, for Wednesday, I'm really hoping that we find some good treasures out on our junk run tomorrow. I guess we'll just see what I come home with. Until then, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your weekend and beginning of the week. I want to thank you so very much for being here, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye.